A new term is popping up in the health and wellness space, and with more people becoming more aware of the food we put in our bodies, kind of gave us a pause. What is ultra processed? Dietitian Paige Smathers is here to break this all down for us, and this is a word that's popping up. I personally do not know the definition, over processed. Break that down for us, Paige.
So the term is ultra processed foods, and it did kind of come out of nowhere. It's not. It was coined in 2009 by a Brazilian team of scientists, but really it's popping up a lot more often in the recent history. And the way that I would define that term, just in easy to understand language, is factory-made foods that contain ingredients that aren't typically found in an at-home kitchen.
Gotcha. So with that then, and you'll explain a little bit about more what they are, but what does that do to our bodies, these type of foods, if we put them in our bodies?
Yeah, so the term is very broad. It includes actually a really wide swath of food options. So this is part of the issue with the term. But essentially what it does is the ultra processing processes that it goes through, it removes essential nutrients from the foods. So things like fiber, things like micronutrients like vitamins and minerals. So what it will do is if you don't have a lot of fiber in a food that typically would have fiber, you won't feel as full or satisfied with that same food in the same amount. So it becomes easier to eat more of it than actually your body needs. Another common thing that happens is we can develop nutrient deficiencies if we're eating really high amounts of ultra processed foods. But again, the term is very broad, as we'll talk about. So it's a little bit tricky because it's not a very easy to understand label, because it includes so many of our foods. Yeah, and you're here to educate us, so tell us what the foods are that we can find this in. What should we be looking out for? You know, it actually includes up to 70% of our food supply in the United States would be considered ultra-processed with this definition. So if people take what I'm saying and think, oh, I'm supposed to not eat any ultra-processed foods ever, that would be a mistake, because there are foods that are considered, you know, really important part of our diet and our nutrition that I wouldn't want people to feel guilty about eating. So obviously it's a spectrum, and there are some things, if we use our common sense, we know probably don't eat that all day, every day. So what are some examples, like flavored yogurt? Yeah, so I picked some surprising foods that would probably surprise people, because sometimes we label foods as good or bad or healthy or unhealthy. So some of the foods that we think, oh yeah, we should be getting more of that, are actually included in this list. So I wanted to get us to be critical thinkers about this. So flavored yogurt is one thing that would be considered ultra-processed. But again, the goal is not to eat zero ultra-processed foods. It's just an awareness about our food system and what our choices are. So in that situation, you know, you could choose a yogurt that has less added sugar, if you'd like, or more fat. Usually you need fat or sugar to make yogurt taste good. And it's perfectly valid to say, you know what, less sugar, more fat, so that I feel more full and satisfied. But still, that would be considered an ultra-processed food. Any brands that stick out when it comes to yogurt? Oh, you're asking me brands? I mean, yeah, well, just curious. I would say like maybe a Yoplait brand that's really sweet and a lot of sugar and not a lot of protein. So some of the Greek yogurts will be, they're processed a little bit differently, and so they'll have a higher protein content, a little bit more filling and satisfying. Whole wheat bread. Okay, whole wheat bread's another surprising one, right? Okay, yeah. So obviously if you make bread at home and you grind up your own wheat, and that bread is not going to have ultra-processed definition to it. But when they make it in a factory, they have to put additives and preservatives so that it will last on the shelf. That doesn't make it necessarily a bad thing or a thing that we need to avoid. But definitely whole grains contain a good balance of nutrients that are really important for our bodies. So I would say don't worry about the whole grain bread ultra-processed food label. You've got fiber, you've got protein, you've got some fat, some vitamins and minerals, and carbohydrate with whole wheat bread. Paige, before we let you go, though, you're going to let us know 3 things of how we can do better. Okay. So first things first, we need to use our common sense. This term gets thrown around and it can feel really scary. But just remember, there is a difference between something like a Twinkie and something like whole grain bread, right? Like even though they're in the same category, it doesn't mean that they do the same things in our body. The second tip I would give is, you know, in general, try to eat foods as close to how they come in nature as possible, right? So when it makes sense to eat brown rice with a dinner, go ahead and do that. You're going to get extra fiber. You're going to feel more full and satisfied. You're going to get some minerals and vitamins. But again, don't be stressed out about it, because that's also not good for our health. The third thing I would say is to prioritize eating. A lot of times people think, you know, I'll get to it when I have time. You know,
that's a big
it's
no-no,
a low priority, right? But
Put
we
that
have
at the top
to think
of our list.
Exactly. You have to plan, prepare, shop, and also prioritize. If you're out and about, think about, where am I going to get food? Where am I going to make sure that I have food on hand to make choices?
Oh, thank you so much for walking us through that. And Paige Smathers, how do we get in touch with you if we want to learn more?
Yeah, my website is called Positive Nutrition, and it's just positive-nutrition.com, and we're a team of registered dietitians in Salt Lake.
We learned a lot. Thanks so much for your wisdom.
Thank you.